Welcome to 5 Strike Weekly, everyone. This week we preview that massive first leg in the conference finals against New York Red Bull. We update you on the international break, and we take a dip into the mailbag to answer some of your questions. All that and more, coming up.
Welcome to the show, 5 Strike fam. I'm AJ, this is Tanner McLeod. Before we get into it, become a member of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube, or hop over from Facebook and subscribe. Welcome to a shortened 5 Strike Weekly this week, where we bring you the match preview of the Eastern Conference Final Leg 1. But before we get into that, let's get into the news, and there was a heartwarming article from Jose Martinez written in his own words on the Players Tribune. And man, it was just so sweet, the stuff that he said about Atlanta. But when he was asked about what Atlanta meant to him, he said, "A year ago, before our playoff loss in the first round, I maybe didn't know the answer. But now I do. Atlanta is the supporters who make the Mercedes-Benz Stadium the best place I've ever played soccer. Atlanta is my teammates, the coaching staff, the friends I've made on this team. Atlanta is family. Atlanta means family." I mean, it couldn't be any more heartwarming than that, really.
Yeah, I mean, as if I didn't like the guy enough already. I mean, to hear how he talks about Atlanta and what the city means to him, how passionate he is about this club, this fan base, this team, it's awesome to see. I mean, you rarely get that insight into players, and players sometimes, especially in this day and age, rarely come to form a bond with the city they play in, you know, to the degree that Joseph Martinez has formed with Atlanta. It's like you said, it's really heartwarming. It's awesome to see, and hopefully he can spend a very long time here, score a lot of goals, set some more records, and win a few titles. Yeah,
it seems like, he definitely has that affinity for Atlanta. And he even spoke about the, process of him coming to Atlanta United, where he knew nothing about Atlanta as a city. He just knew that, it was a new project starting from the ground up, and that Tata Martino was involved, and that there were some good players involved as well. He also went on to talk about his relationship with Miguel Almiron and how strong of a bond that they have, and especially with
his grandfather's critiques of Miguel Almiron, where they would
runs
go
like an ostrich.
Where Miguel comes back in. Your grandpa just said I run like an ostrich.
But hilarious stuff, obviously. But
Joseph Martinez's granddad sounds like the absolute goat.
Yeah, sounds like a person I want to hang out with. Because now that he mentions it, I kind of see it. It really, Mickey runs kind of like an ostrich a little bit.
He's a little bit on point there. I thought it was really cool to find out that he was a Real Madrid fan and Miggy's a Barcelona fan. Like just those fun parts about their the fun parts about their friendship and everything. It really, gave you a look behind the curtain about that, and it's great to see. I mean, it really is great to see your two best players being that close to friends, but also for them to care as much about the city as they do.
Right. So, and they built the bond apparently early within like the 2017 practice sessions, in preseason, where they would be the last two pretty much on the pitch, practicing free kicks, practicing crossing to Joseph, and Joseph was pretty forthright to Miggy, saying that you and I, we are pretty much going to need to build a very strong connection for us to win. And
I think he's safe to say he's accomplished that goal.
I think so. So just a fantastic article on the Players Tribune, and maybe a little bit ghostwritten by somebody, but I mean, I think this is still you can tell that. Mostly, I think it comes from Jose Martinez, and it's just gold. Like, pretty much all of it is gold.
He's very, very much candid. But moving on from that, guys, there were some attendance figures that came out for this year for the world and the highest attended clubs. Atlanta United slots in nicely at 19th, right behind a team that I love to despise, Manchester City, that they claim to be a great team and have lots of fans. They don't. Ours are better. We have more. Let's get above them, please. It would make me very, very happy. But for a team only in its second year to be in the top 20 in the world in attendance, averaging over 53,000 fans a game, that's incredible. Absolute pat on the back to the fans, but it's a whole club effort, And you kind of saw that in the Forbes piece as well, how it talks about how valuable and how big a club is and how it might be the most successful sports franchise launch in history.
For sure. So, and I mean, the Forbes piece pretty much said that we were valued at $330 million already in our second year again.
The #1 franchise in Major League Soccer.
Exactly. And that's just pretty outrageous, and that's above the likes of a very, very valuable team like LA Galaxy, who have won so many titles and you know, have a lot of very, very valuable players. But I mean, you know, I think it's just we've done so many things right that it's kind of unprecedented, and you know, it really bodes well for the future. I mean, this is just, it could go, the sky's the limit, really.
I think the thing that you have to take with these two kind of articles and pieces coming out at the same time, we already knew that Atlanta United was successful. We already knew to the degree that which their blueprint was going to be modeled by clubs coming after them, like in Atlanta, like Miami, I should say, like an LAFC. Now the real big thing for them is to take that next step, is to win the MLS Cup. You do that, and then I think you really can claim that title of being one of the most successful sports franchise launches ever. But again, it all comes back around to the fans, the front office, the players. You know, with the piece from Joseph Martinez, the players care. The front office clearly is engaged with the fans and the community. And then the fans coming out and supporting the team. It all goes together to make something that's truly incredible. And you know, we're in the middle of a great journey right now in the playoffs, and hopefully we see that with the team lifting the cup at the end of it. But like you said, I think it's a very nice look into the future to see a bright future, hopefully.
Right, agreed. But moving on into Atlanta United 2, they announced a bunch of roster decisions for the end of the year. And some notable options that were exercised were Laurent Kissidou, who's just a baller, Captain Jack Metcalf, Kevin Barajas, the Dream Tryout winner, and Paul Christensen, the super draftee, and Ford Joseph Samuel, our boy. And yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of other guys that were, you know, unfortunately maybe let go. And I mean, it is what it is. It's, you know, we were not super successful in terms of wins and losses. So I see that, you know, it's for good reason. Maybe some guys that maybe didn't perform as well as they wanted them to were let go. The likes of Nicholas Carreau, the goalkeeper, and AJ Cochran, which is maybe a little bit of a surprise because at times he was definitely our most steady defender, but maybe he just didn't fit the mold. And yeah, I mean, but I think that opens the door for a lot of young kids and academy players to get more playing time and really hone their craft within, you know, other men that are playing with them and against them, which, you know, just I think it's nothing but upward and you know, upward trajectories for Atlanta United too. But
absolutely, I mean, for me, I think I banged about it a lot during the regular season, is that it should be a developmental project. I understand the need to have professionals on there to kind of give those kids some experience and some guidance, but I'd really like to see it as that testing ground and as that, well, I guess, proving ground, and that transition between the youth team and the first team, and getting those young players in, playing against more physically mature professionals that have played the game, get the lumps, you know, kicked out of them a little bit, and then be able to take that experience and translate it into the first team and make it a smoother transition between the academy and the first team.
Right. And they've already made a new signing as well. Luis Fernando from Richmond Kickers has been signed, and apparently he's a baller as well. And so, you know, he's a Brazilian player, and hopefully he can come on and kick on with us and make Atlanta United 2 their second season, you know,
a little bit more productive than the first one.
Yeah.
Moving on, guys, we know it's been international break. Thankfully, we haven't had too many issues arising from it. Darlington Nagbe at the beginning of it was actually held out due to a slight hamstring injury, which I'm actually okay with, assuming it's not too serious, because he wasn't risked. Brad Guzan played the 90 minutes against England in Wayne Rooney's testimonial, or whatever it is you want to call it, that they played, and thoroughly trounced the United States in last Thursday. Joseph Martinez played 72 minutes against Iran, but was subbed off. Thankfully, he seems to be fine. Miguel Almiron started in South Africa, and Tito Villalba played 25 minutes as well, with both picking up bookings, funny enough.
Yeah.
That being said, hopefully all three arrive safely back in Atlanta for them to focus on the very large game that is this Sunday.
Indeed, but yeah, I mean, Miguel Almiron did play a full 90, which is, you know, some would say it's worrying, but with the, you know, the lack of games that he's had because of his injury lately, maybe it's kind of good that he gets a little bit of a tune-up. So, you know, in terms of the mileage on his legs, it's maybe not as bad as if it were he wasn't injured at all. But yeah, I mean, it's still just a little bit worrying. That,
I'm more worried about the travel, that they had to travel all the way to South Africa, and then they have to travel all the way back. That can't be exactly ideal.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, hopefully there is that, you know, maybe just a very, very quick flight. Maybe they took the quickest possible route, but who knows? Who knows? That's just pipe dreams maybe. But yeah, and so also Kaku of the New York Red Bulls also played 45 minutes for Paraguay as well, and so maybe there's a little bit of that, a little fatigue for him.
So I guess he had to go all the way as well, so that makes it a bit even in that case.
Right, except he didn't play a full 90, but whatever. Anyway, let's get on into the rumors, and Daniel Campos, Miguel Miron's agent, pretty much spoke about the status of the rumors with Miguel Miron and the Prem. And, the England rumors pretty much are just rumors at this point, because essentially there are no offers from any of the Premier League teams. And so, yeah, all those rumors that we've heard so far, nothing has transpired. But, Campos does believe that he will leave in January. And I think for my kind of sanity's sake, I think it's probably best that he does leave in January, because if he does leave in the summer window, it becomes this kind of awkward situation where he's kept, and basically he may or may not still be want away, and may be a little distracted. And so I don't know if it's the best situation that if he is kept, but so I hope that we get the right offer, and an offer that we can pull the trigger on. But it's gonna be a very, very interesting January for sure, and hopefully, yeah, we get the transfer fee that we desire.
For sure. In that interview, he also mentioned possible interest from Spain and Italy. I think those are two other countries that I think Miguel Almiron would do well in. Italy's a bit interesting because there's not a great deal of money, with the exception of a few clubs in the Italian league, so that would really narrow his options down as far as that is concerned. I still think the Premier League is his most likely destination, as pretty much every single club is flush with cash and could afford to pay the around £25 million to $30 million that Atlanta United are looking for to get from Miguel Almiron. I agree with your point as well about him staying past January, but I think Darren Eales will have a lot of experience in dealing with that situation. He obviously handled the Gareth Bale transfer to Real Madrid. He's going to want to get that thing tied up as quickly as possible, and I think he probably already has a good idea about what's going to happen. They're just keeping it under wraps, and it's not in Miguel Almiron's agent's interest to go out and say exactly what's happening in the media as well. I mean, that, if anything, can only harm their position. I think they want to move on, and from my understanding, the club wants to work with them on moving on, and saying anything out in the open might hinder that process. So I don't know. I don't think we'll know the whole story, but I think it's probably a bit farther along than we've led to believe.
Yeah.
Just because I think that they want to have it, like you said, tied up and done before things get too far into the preseason.
Right. And all this was on the podcast Low Limit Football, and so check it out there. The whole interview, and it was transcribed by our buddy Roberto Rojas. But yeah, and also Darren Eales was in England for the U.S. men's national team versus England. So
wonder what he was doing there.
Maybe. But another rumor that came about through the international break was that Tata Martino apparently agreed to a 4-year deal with the Mexican national team, and it's interesting. I mean, because a lot of those articles also point out the fact that, yeah, he's not really able to negotiate until after, our season's over anyway. So the fact that he apparently has negotiated a deal already, also when he doesn't have an agent, I mean, yes, his daughter is someone that apparently is a lawyer and can, deal with the money for him, but I think, it's still, the numbers say 2.2 to 2.5 per year, and then there's an option of 4 years if he meets the objectives of the FMF.
Which will be winning their first knockout game at the World Cup.
Yeah.
If he doesn't do that, he won't stay.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because, the FMF are very renowned for firing a lot of people pretty prematurely or quickly, you might say. And yeah, so if he lasts 4 years, that would be a huge surprise.
I mean, the longest he stayed anywhere.
Yeah.
So I will honestly be shocked if he stays all 4 years. The World Cup's a long way away. Who knows? We shall see.
Right.
Another rumor was that Josef Martinez was linked to Liga MX's club side Monterrey. I'm going to go ahead and throw water on that really quickly and say that makes no sense to me. I don't think Monterrey could really afford to pay what we'd want for Josef Martinez, because there's no way Atlanta are going to sell both of their best players in one offseason, as well as losing their manager. That's not what clubs do, and Darren Eales will know that. I think Josef Martinez, if he ever does move on, will be after this next season. I don't think they'll sell him during it personally, because that's not really a smart move, but I would go ahead and write this one off. It doesn't seem very plausible to me, especially with that Players Tribune article coming out about how much he loves Atlanta. I don't see him wanting to uproot himself and move somewhere else so quickly.
Right, and this came from Aldo Farias at Univision, and if it is true, then
they might be interested, but he's not going anywhere.
Exactly. I think it's just a link, and that's really all it is. I think it's more of that dartboard action, like we've mentioned in previous episodes before, and so,
transfer season.
Yeah, it's just what it is. But guys, let's get into the mailbag, and you guys send in your questions in the IG story. Please continue to do so, and your question may be answered in the future. But yeah, first question comes from Treybone39. He asks, in your opinion, what's a reasonable price to sell Miggy?
I think Darren Eales is pretty spot on when he talked about it on 92.9 The Game. Around $30 million, I think, 25 million pounds, somewhere in that area. I think that's a very fair estimation for his services, especially when you take into the context of how much Premier League clubs have these days. That's not an unreasonable sum for even a lower team in the Premier League bottom half club to pay for a player, especially one of Miguel Almiron's talent. He is clearly a very driven individual and wants to succeed and continue to get better. He's dynamic, his work rate is incredible. I think he would fit in well with the up and down pace of the Premier League. The physicality might take some time to get used to, but I think when it comes to a price, I think we're looking about $30 million, which sounds kind of like a lot of money, but when you see how much players go for these days, it's kind of what you get for an average player. And I don't think he's exactly average. I think he's got a lot of upside.
Yeah, he's got a ton of potential. I mean, he is 24. I mean, he's not like a Mbappe where it's, oodles of, youth and potential. But, I think he's in kind of that mid-tier where, yeah, I think we could fetch around 30 million for him. And, why these players sometimes want to go as well. I mean, they get that pay raise. Sometimes they get a little cut of the transfer fee that they're sold by. And, it's I don't blame them, because there's a lot more money in Europe.
I mean, the Premier League is the biggest, richest league in the world right now, and if he can get 100,000 pounds a week, that's not a bad gig at all. I mean, you're looking at $130,000+ a week. That's not bad. That's what a pretty standard wage for a solid player can get. But I mean, it's still going to be an increase on what he's making in Atlanta right now.
Next question comes from Emic321. Sell one. Almiron or Martinez? I think it's pretty easy here, though, I think, because Almiron is pretty much gonna be going, and Martinez, is probably going to want to stay a while. So I think
I would say if you took those two out, if you took all that out of it, and, it was just taking all the extra out of it, and you have to sell one or the other, Josef or Miggy. That's a really tough question.
That is, yeah.
I think for me, each has their own qualities, but I'd probably sell Miggy, just because to find a goal scorer as good as Josef is really hard to find. Yes, he gives a lot of the credit to Almiron, but I think you have other players like a Barco, like a potential Pity Martinez, where you can kind of move them into that playmaking role. And especially in a style that's up-tempo and attacking, you're going to get players that fit into that. Josef Martinez has proved to be an incredible find, and I think depending on how long he stays in Atlanta, he could set a lot more Major League Soccer goal-scoring records. Miguel Almiron, I don't know. It's an incredible player. It's a great question, but I'd probably sell Miggy and keep Josef, just because I don't know what it is about Josef. I just love the guy.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with you there, because it's like this. I mean, there are a lot of playmakers and number 10s in the world. But there are fewer clinical strikers like Josef Martinez. And it's evident that, I mean, he broke a record that stood for a very, very long time. And so, I think that's a huge part of it. Yes, he had a lot of great service from Almiron and Gressel, but I mean, it's still, he was scoring in all different types of ways. So,
and the mentality that he has, I mean, he's a really good striker. And honestly, I think he's a player that if he has another season like he's had this season and last year, next season, I think it would make a lot of sense for teams in Europe to go, okay, this guy scored 90-ish goals in 3 seasons in Major League Soccer. He knows what's up, and it would make sense to me for teams to try to come in and sign him, especially in a January 2020 window where teams who need strikers are willing to pay a lot of money for a striker.
Right, and take that flyer on someone like Joseph Martinez in the Premier League. I mean, yeah, it's I think it would be a no-brainer in my eyes. But yeah, next question comes from Gabriel Ruiz Shrek. They ask, do you think Atlanta United is more prepared to replace Martinez or Almiron? In the tradition of so many Almiron or Martinez questions.
I will say Almiron because we're linked with Pity Martinez already. I think Ezequiel Barco can play that position as well. I think Atlanta United are very much in the position and have been planning for the departure of Miguel Almiron and to replace him. So I think that they're in a very good position to replace him. If Joseph left right now, I wouldn't know where we'd go to find another striker.
Yeah.
Because
where do you find 31 goals just readily made? That it's tough, and that wants to play in MLS. It's difficult. So
yeah, exactly. And to keep them here, because they scored 30 goals, and it's like, see, I'm out of here. But clearly, Joseph wants to stay and do big things in Atlanta.
Next question comes from J Malum 97. They ask, what role do you see Lagos Kunga playing when he's ready for the first team? For me, I kind of see him as a super sub. I think right now it's his level. Yeah, I think he could make some 18s or maybe spot start in some U.S. Open Cups and matches like that. But yeah, I think he maybe isn't as clinical or isn't the fastest player, but he scores a lot of goals, and so it's one of those. He's one of those flying forwards that you want in your team. So I mean, I
think for me, I'd like to see him start and play consistently at the USL level next season and play a lot. I think from there, that might be a good transition year, and then you might see what he might be as a finished article moving towards the first team. I don't think he's necessarily ready there yet, and when you have a player like Joseph Martinez up top, it's hard to find a way for him to come off even for anyone. So I don't know where he'll come in. I think, like you said, some 18s, maybe some substitute appearances here and there. That'd be nice to kind of get him that experience, but I'd like to see him play consistently at Atlanta United too before he moves into the first team.
Yeah, agreed. Next question comes from Right Naldo. What is one thing about the franchise you could change? It can be anything. Tough question. Tough question.
Oh,
I mean, this club does a lot of things right, and so it's kind of difficult to pinpoint maybe one thing. But I think, let's see, maybe in terms of maybe the ticket prices, people have had some complaints there. So
I think ticketing as a whole maybe could be done a little bit in a more smooth fashion.
Yeah.
A better selection of merchandise.
But I think that's a little bit less on the team. I think it's more on the company that is contracted out to make all those designs.
I can't say any more on that. What else? I mean, you're right though. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
But that being said, 2 years in, they're doing so much well. I can't really complain. There's no one that I'm just like, I would absolutely change that.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. The roof open and closed at the right times. Honestly, I mean, really, there's not.
These are minor quibbles, if anything.
Yeah, there's no major change I could have right now.
Right,
I mean,
because we have an owner that is willing to invest in the club. You have a president who is doing everything the right way. You have a communications team that's marketing this team in a really, really great fashion where you see the success.
You have the former captain of the USMNT as your technical director. I mean,
yeah, and then the style of play itself. I mean, just beautiful play.
I really can't complain. I think that question might be better directed to our friends in the South, in that state of Florida, and they wear purple. Ask them. They might have some things to change about their team. But for us, I think we're all right.
Yeah, minor quibbles. But last question comes from Colby Ellis from YouTube. He asked, hey y'all, been a day one subscriber and always watching the videos, but I have a serious question. I know Tata has only been in Atlanta for 2 seasons, but I think he shaped the club by setting the bar high, and his leadership, along with his world-class experience that he brought along to Georgia. So, my question is, do y'all think the Benz should decorate the stadium with a statue of Tata at the stadium. I do. Colby, thank you so much for that awesome comment, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you for watching from the very beginning. We really appreciate your support.
Yeah.
But that's a great question.
Yeah, to answer that, I think, you know, maybe a statue for the 2 years, if not that, you know, maybe at least a banner, but maybe even a statue at the training center, because it's sort of kind of, you know, a place that Tata built, and, you know, at least they built it in his vision, probably. So I think something at least in that regard, but I think statues for 2 years, I don't know, it's maybe a little premature.
Might be a bit premature. I think if he can win the MLS Cup, that might do a lot. I think something else is very interesting is the fact that this is a shared stadium, so that makes things a little bit more interesting. I think something else that, you know, that eventually we'll have to talk about, in soccer, traditionally the teams have different parts of the stadium named different things. So you have, like Manchester United, you have the Stratford End, the Sir Alex Ferguson stand, Sir Matt Busby stand. You know, at Arsenal, you had the Clock End. There's these different clubs that have different, you know, the Cop at Liverpool. You have these names of these sides and these stands that come up throughout their history that they develop. I don't know if necessarily that's something that Atlanta United can have, where they name certain sides of the stadium after different players, whether that's just something that they only have for Atlanta United games.
Yeah.
You know, if they have different things between the Falcons and Atlanta United that they can unveil, like temporary signage or something. Statue, I think only if he wins an MLS Cup. I think if he wins an MLS Cup, then you can say, all right, maybe he gets a statue. But you usually have to do a lot to get a statue. In 2 years, as much as he's done, I don't know if that's something that you might get. Maybe you name the training ground after him. I don't know. But there's got to be something for him, and I wholeheartedly agree that he deserves something, especially if his last thing that he does here is win an MLS Cup.
Yeah, agreed. So, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of options there, and, you know, hopefully there is some, you know, some trophies to you know, put at the end of that. But yeah, that gets us to the match preview, and man, it is a big one coming up. It's Sunday, it's 5 p.m. at the Benz, it's leg one, and it is going to be a doozy for sure, because yeah, Red Bulls are no walkover. Yeah, it is gonna be
team I didn't want to play.
Yep. And you know, we were all dreading it, but I think you know, the team has pretty much spoken about how they're ready for this matchup, and I think that's the mindset that we want them to be in. That they're, you know, raring to go. They want to prove the record wrong, where, you know, we are. You know, 3
defeated.
Losses. Yeah,
we're defeated.
Well, yeah, and you know, we've drawn them once, but yeah, it is, you know, a very dismal record against a team that, you know, is super difficult, and, you know, they made history throughout the season with the most points. They're the best team in MLS, you know, regular season history. So I mean, it's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this game. I did not want to play them, and I get that some people are like, oh, you gotta beat the best to be the best. Yeah, but sometimes you get a really easy draw when you get to the finals or something. Look at England in the World Cup. They played no one basically till they got to the semis. That'd be great. Yeah, it's gonna be a tough game, like you said.
If anything, it's gonna be a very good thing for MLS.
Oh yeah, this is the matchup they wanted for sure. They wanted this matchup. They probably wish that they could have it as a final.
Yeah, right.
But no, it's going to be tight. It's going to be hectic. It's going to be confrontational. I think it's going to be very similar to NYCFC, where there's going to be players flying into tackles. It's going to be physical. These teams don't like each other, I don't think. I don't think that there's any love lost between the managers, the fans. They're a rival. They're a team that we want to beat. We haven't beat. They're a pain in our side in a sense. They're the thorn in our side. And we have to beat them now. You've had a great season. You've had a great 2 years. Tata Martino, all these great things. But at the end of the day, it's about results and winning things. And this is the big test. These are going to be the 2 biggest matches in Atlanta United history so far. That's very easy to say, obviously, because it's only a 2-year-old club. But I'm really nervous. It's going to have to be the most intense atmosphere we've ever created at the Benz this weekend. It's going to have to be 90 minutes fully behind the team, regardless of what's happening. They're going to need us there. It's going to be a hell of a game, man. Football, bloody hell. It's...
Agreed. Oh. But yeah, you know, and it's not just tensions between you know, the players on the field. It is tensions between the managers or the head coaches as well. Chris Armas, the New York Red Bulls coach. Yeah, I mean, there was that handshake gate last time when, yeah, I mean, he was, you know, pretty visibly cheering his team on when you know they got a game-leading goal, and you know it was you know he was kind of spurring up the fans as well, and Tata didn't like that and didn't shake his hand after the match, and you know Chris Armas said, "Oh, okay, it's an misunderstanding" after the in the post game press conference. But I mean, you know, whether Tata agrees or not, I mean, you know, maybe it doesn't have a huge bearing on the game, but I feel like there is still mutual respect between both sides, and you know there will be. It's going to be a tactical showcase for sure, because I mean, what Tata is going to have to do to win is, you know, do something completely opposite than what he's done against the New York Red Bulls so far to date.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a complete tactical masterclass on his part. He's going to have, like you said, change the way that he's played. They're going to press high up the pitch. They know how they want to play. We know how they want to play. They know how Atlanta United would like to play, but I don't think they're going to afford us that opportunity. Yeah. Tata showed a certain pragmatism against NYCFC that I haven't seen before from him. I think if he's smart and changes the ways that he approaches this match and maybe throws a wrench into the tactics that surprises Red Bull, that'd be nice to see. Maybe that's some long balls over the top early to really try to test their back line and see if they really want to press that far up the pitch. You know, it's curious, will Red Bull actually come in and press off the get-go? Yeah. Maybe they sit back and try to let Atlanta United open up and make some mistakes. It's a two-legged match, so they know they're going to get 90 minutes in front of their home supporters. I think for this match, keeping 11 men on the pitch is going to be incredibly key for Atlanta United. Yeah. And yes, that might sound like a not-so-hot take, but in 2 of the matches we've played at home, someone's been sent off. Yeah. So keeping all 11 men on the pitch against Red Bull at home has not yet happened. We need to make sure that happens. We need to not let ourselves get affected by the officiating, whether it's good or bad. It's going to be bad. Let's expect that. Yeah. Obviously, in the last game at home, we had that really controversial goal ruled out. It was just one of those games where things didn't go Atlanta United's way. And then in the second game this season, you didn't have a Darlington Nagbe. You didn't play well. The passing wasn't coming together. Tactically, I thought Tata got it wrong. You know,
but both matches, we still had our chances, and if we were efficient, then we would have at least.
We could have taken the lead in the second match for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and so I think we look at that in that we were still able to create chances against all the odds pretty much, and I think within that I think there is some silver lining and some glimmer of hope for sure. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Red Bulls, they've been changing up since Chris Armas has come in. The way that they've been playing a little bit, they've been trying to possess the ball a little bit more to pretty much go against their Achilles heel, because when teams sit back against them, then it becomes really, really difficult for them to build anything and get any chances. And so, with this, I mean, both of our teams will have to pretty much go against what we're normally used to and renowned for. But yeah, I mean, and in terms of, New York Red Bulls, they came back in a playoff series for the first time in what seems like probably forever for them. Their fans are almost as trepidatious about playing this, playing in the playoffs as anybody, because they've had a history of failing very early or deep in the playoffs.
Just not getting over that line, especially when they've won the Supporters' Shield 3 out of the last 5 years. So
exactly,
they've been a team that has had the pressure of being the #1 team, and they failed to meet the expectations that have been set for them due to the regular season play. For Atlanta United, again, there's so many things about this match that are complicated and complex, and for me, I think you could have anything from an absolute goal fest to, surprisingly, I think you could have very little goals scored at all, because the teams might be so afraid they might not play each other. Right. So there's so many ways that this match can go, and it's going to come down to how the managers set their teams out. I think some of that's going to be dictated by injury, which Atlanta United, in a lot of ways, we're doing pretty okay on. We have lost some players that maybe would be nice to be available, in a Romari Williams and a Brandon Vasquez, a Chris McCann.
I think for our forward line, I think we do need some sort of depth, so we don't have to play Jose Martinez 90 minutes for both matches.
I think you're going to need the 90 minutes from him in both matches, though, to beat this Red Bull team.
But if we need, another goal, or where's that going to come from? And that's going to be, more relied on maybe a Tito or a Barco that probably miss out on the starting 11. Another guy who's questionable is Jeff Lorenowitz. And Julian Gressel spoke about how Larry was not happy at all about missing out on the second leg against NYCFC. I saw how disappointed he was when he said he wasn't going to play. He was pretty upset. Never good when you see a teammate like that. I told him before the second New York City game that there would be another game to play in. I'm glad he's back out. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, we're super glad that he was able to get another game, because maybe there might be some things where this may be Jeff Lorinc's last couple matches. I mean, who knows if he's gonna retire at the end of the season or, you know, anything like that. But
absolutely, I think this team needs him in midfield. I think we'll get into the tactical lineup and how we think we will set up a little bit on. I hope he's fit, but I hope that Tata is not like, okay, you're fit, into the back three with you. Yeah. That would be a terrible idea.
Do not want it.
That is not the sauce we need to beat it in New York Red Bull.
Right, and Nagbe also had a low-grade hamstring strain as well, and that's why he was left out of the U.S. men's national team. But he also trained with the team this week as well, so both might be available for the first leg.
I think Nagbe will definitely be available. I think low-grade hamstring is, you have a little bit of something. This is a reason for you to not go anywhere, because we need you.
Yeah, and you could see that, yeah, I mean, he was in good spirits, and you know, he probably wasn't in too much pain. He was at the Drake Migos concert at Atlanta's State Farm Arena.
It's been rebranded. Got to remember, it's not Phillips anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird to see that and hear that. Yeah, but yeah, for New York Red Bulls, they have a ton of people out, but you know, guys that have been been out for the season already, and you know, with the likes of Valode and Duncan, Bezecourt, Redding, Ben Mines. I mean, guys that have been out for a while, but I mean, you can see that, I mean, any guys that get injured, they pretty much, they have someone behind them that will come in with and really, you know, just deputize and do the job, and that's really kind of annoying, actually.
It's what's been so impressive about Red Bull this season is how much of a team they are, and that kind of sounds like a generalized statement, but like you said, for everyone that goes out, they have someone that can step in and do that job. They have a real next man up culture there, and they have a lot of young players that have come in, they've brought through their academy that are playing and getting a lot of minutes in the first team. So they have that understanding of what Red Bulls is, how they want to play. It's a goal for me that I'd like to see Atlanta United doing in the next few years. It's just an incredible team, especially considering they lost their manager halfway through the season, and they still finished with the most points in a single season. They still managed to come back against Columbus Crew, who are a solid team, especially in the playoffs, and now they're in a position to try to get their first MLS Cup. So they are a very good team. They're as stern of a test as Atlanta United are going to face this year. You got them in 2 legs, though. So it'll be very, very interesting, but having that first leg at home could really mean a lot. And I think that having the right lineup is going to be the key to getting that result we need at home.
I think so, and I think for me, we kind of do something similar to what we did against NYCFC. I think we go with a kind of, it was a hybrid 3 or 5-man back line, so 5-3-2 perhaps. So with that, you know, Guzan between the sticks, obviously, and then going with the 5-man back line, you have Garza, LGP, Parkey, Escobar, and then Gressel, for me anyway, and Remedi, Nagbe, and Lorenowitz in midfield, Miggy and Joseph up top. I think we play in that fashion where, you know, we will probably try to smash and grab something. I mean, that's really, I think, you know, our best tactic against a really stout New York Red Bulls team.
It might be very interesting to where Atlanta United can defer possession to the other team again at home. We saw that against NYCFC, where traditionally Atlanta hold the ball more than 50% of the time. We did not see that in the last game that we played at home, and I think you could very much see that again. A 3-man back line has a couple issues, but I understand why United would go with it, because it would give them the strongest defensive base to move forward and attack. And if the goal is to hit them on the counter, then you'll have the option of those long balls over the top to Joseph and Miggy, with the options of bringing Barco and Tito Villalba off the bench at the end of the game if you need some fresh legs to really stretch the match. I think the problem with having a 3-man back line is something that was exhibited in the last game we played against Red Bull in New Jersey, where you pull a man out of midfield, and when they press that high up the pitch, you leave yourself a man short in that area of the pitch, where having another person there could really help you get out and move the ball up the field against that press. I think we also saw the problem of having Jeff Lorenowitz playing as a right-sided center back on a large pitch against a team that presses him and puts him in 1v1 situations, which is not where he's comfortable. That being said, I think Escobar copes a lot better in that role. Personally, I'd obviously like to see a back four, but I agree with you. I think the 11 is the exact same that you said. I think that it's going to give you the most balanced approach to this game, and from a pragmatic point of view, it might be the way ahead to securing a result, because sometimes you have to play ugly to win, and sometimes playing the best football isn't what gets you the result. So I'm going to go with whatever Tata trusts, because he seemed to get it spot on against City. We'll see what he comes up with on this one, but I agree with you as far as that 11 is concerned.
Right. So that gets us into our scoreline prediction. What do you think is going to happen, man?
I'm not very optimistic at all about this game. There's something about it where even though we had a high against NYCFC, there's something about this Red Bull team that just doesn't have me very comfortable. I think they're going to edge us 2-1 at home, which
Two away goals,
which is not ideal in any sense of the form.
Yeah.
I'm just not confident going into this tie. I don't know what it is. I wish I could bring more optimism to it, especially coming off the back of a really strong performance over 2 legs against City. But I think there's a big gap between that City side and this Red Bull side. They're just playing really good football at the right time. So are Atlanta United, but I have to go with my gut. My gut says Red Bulls, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm definitely a little bit more hopeful than you are, and I think, yeah, it's going to be a 1-0 win for Atlanta. I mean, that means Red Bulls are shut out. That means they don't get that away goal.
That would make me incredibly happy.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully that is the case, but I mean, it is going to be like, we have to play perfect.
We have to take our chances whenever they come up. We cannot, if we miss our chances when we have them, you need the clinical nature of Joseph to come back that you saw against City in the second leg. You need him taking his chances. You need Miguel Almiron running at their defense, making them make rash challenges and giving you set pieces that Atlanta United have capitalized in recent matches. They're going to have to bring everything out of their tool belt to get this one done. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm just going off what I've seen before, and we just don't seem to match up well against this team. But you can never put anything past Tata Martino, and he can bring anything out of his back pocket, and he showed that against City in the last round.
Right. But it's also one of those things where, you know, if we do lose the first leg or we give up an away goal, it is not all doom and gloom. But if we do give up 2, it is, a very large mountain to climb for sure. But if it's 1, I mean, you know, we are road warriors. We have won on the road and not at Red Bull Arena, but you know, there is that, you know, we've changed tactics to be able to, I think, pretty much counteract a team like this, because I think Tata knew that we were going to play a team like this eventually, and so, you know, if not, you know, the Red Bulls. And so I think this is something that has been planned for a long time after the Toronto match. I mean, he's been, you know,
I think he knew that this match was coming, and you know, it's different to be reactionary. I think it's not in his DNA to be a reactionary manager where you do your tactics based upon the other team. He wants to impose his will on the other team. Big teams usually decide, and that's how we're going to approach this match. That's the swagger and the arrogance that they have. That being said, I don't think Atlanta United are a good enough side yet, or a complete enough side to approach the match in that way. And I think that maybe being slightly more defensive would be a new approach to playing Red Bull and might be what upsets them. So we'll see. Like you said, leg 1 is going to be critical. Keeping a clean sheet would be completely ideal, and it actually leads us nicely into our question of the day, which is, if Atlanta United can get a victory in the first leg of this tie against New York Red Bulls, do you think they will go through in the tie overall? For me, if they get a win in this, it depends on what it is. If they get a clean sheet, I feel really good about it, especially if they can win, say, 2-0. A 2-0 result would be really good. But as we've seen from Red Bulls, they do not care. They will take you on in their place, and they will go at you. I wish the second leg was being played in front of our home fans. That second game being away is going to be difficult. We'll see what happens. But again, let us know what you think. But if Atlanta United win this first game, do you think they go through overall and make it to the MLS Cup final? Get down in the comments below and let us know what you guys think.
But guys, that's it for us today. That's our match preview. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video because it really does help us a lot. And smash that like button. And for Tanner McLeod, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching.